Select Board's meeting of August 24th, 2020. My name is Donald Campbell. I am the chair of this board, and I'm going to ask the board to please introduce themselves, starting with Bruce.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Bruce Lee Clark here.
Hello, Jean Connor.
Hi, Jeannie Jenkins.
Good evening. This is Jim Carroll.
Hi, this is Sarah Perrin.
And also with us tonight, we have our town manager, Stuart Hurd, assistant town manager, Dan Monks, and community development director, Shannon Barsati, as well as Nancy Lively, who's taking minutes for us. And of course, everybody knows Cat TV is here. Before we start this meeting, I have to read this one piece, which is that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, state of emergency declared by Governor Scott and pursuant to Addendum 6, Executive Order 1-20, Act 92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. There's no physical location to attend this meeting. However, the public may view it on Cat TV and call in at 1-646-558-8656, entering the meeting ID 867-6862-4805. I'll put that on the screen in just a minute. Zoom has been having some problems today, so if technology fails us, this meeting will be continued at a time and place to be determined. All votes that are not unanimous will be done with a roll call vote in accordance with the law. So the first order of business is to just take a minute and thank a number of people in our community who really worked hard to bring us a Bennington Battle Day celebration. It's really hard to pull off anything during COVID. And I think this team, including you, Sarah, and I'm not sure if Jim worked on that, but many, many other people spent a lot of time and a lot of effort pulling a great event together. Again, I'm sorry I was not able to attend it. I was out of town, but I hear from my fellow select board people that it was a great event and certainly sounded great in the paper, and really made me feel good about the fact that Bennington Battle Day keeps going even during these times of relative adversity. So thank you to the community for doing that. The first item on our agenda is the consent agenda, in which we consider the minutes of August 10th, 2020, the warrants as circulated, and liquor license application for 421 Taproom. The minutes you've all seen. Maybe you've had a chance to get your comments to Nancy Lively. The warrants you've seen. Hopefully you've already spoken to Stuart about any concerns. And the liquor license you've seen. But if you have any comments, now's the time to bring them up. For the purposes of discussion, I would look for a motion to begin this item.
So move.
Okay, do I have a second on the consent agenda?
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. So any discussion? Not hearing any, I would ask everybody to please unmute themselves, and all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, consent agenda has been passed. The next thing we're going to do is to go into public comment, and before we do, we've moved it to the front of the meeting because of popular demand, and so I'm going to share the call-in number. This is if you want to call into this number to be part of public comment, now's the time to do it. If you want to call in and participate in any of the agenda items that are open to the public, you may also use this dial-in number. So dial 646-558-8656, and it will prompt you to enter the meeting ID 867-6862-4805. And then it will tell you to push the pound, push it again, and you will be in the waiting room, and you'll hear music until you're entered into the meeting, at which point we'll ask you to identify yourself and tell us what's on your mind. It does help us a lot if you could please turn the volume down on whatever you're watching Cat TV, whatever device you're watching Cat TV on, so that we don't get feedback at the time. Okay, so I am looking to our waiting room, And I am only seeing one caller in that waiting room at this point, and it's actually Stephanie Lane, who is, I'm going to admit now, she's going to be on our next agenda item. But I'd like to give just another minute longer to see if there anybody calling in for public comment. Again, if not, you are welcome to call in during the subsequent agenda items that we have on our agenda. So not seeing any calls for public comment, I'm going to move on to the next agenda item, which is a public hearing for VCDP funds grant application. And Shires Housing will take us through this, but I'd like to lean on our Community Development Director, Shannon Barsati, to please introduce Stephanie.
Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to introduce Stephanie Lane, who's the Executive Director of Shires Housing, which is a nonprofit that works throughout Bennington County to provide safe and quality affordable housing. And they're headquartered here in Bennington. And they've worked on many different projects here, many of which are funded through community development block grants that I help to manage. So the way that that works is that's federal money that comes to each state, and it's designated for affordable housing and economic and community development. And then the town applies for those funds, and Shires, in this case, would be the subgrantee. So I'm going to let Stephanie talk more about a project that she's hoping to apply for at 300 and Pleasant Street in Bennington.
Stephanie, I'm going to jump right in here after that nice introduction and tell you that I have the PowerPoint here if you don't have it there. And I'd be happy to put it up or make you a co-host so you can show it, whichever works better for you.
Sure, if you could share it, that would be great, Don. Thank you.
Would you like it shared now?
Sure, why not? Give everybody a little snapshot. So thank you, Shannon, and thank you to the Select Board for adding us to the agenda this evening. Shires Housing has acquired the building located at 300 Pleasant Street, and we are planning the rehabilitation of this building for the purposes of partnering with the Bennington County Coalition for the Homeless to relocate their current Thatcher House residents to a new facility that is more suited for their needs, a more dignified, healthier, safer environment for their families that include separate bedrooms, separate bathrooms and kitchen facilities. It's structured, the housing will be structured as permanent, but programmatically will be transitional in nature. Shire's role in this will be to act as the sponsor and the developer, and we'll continue to manage the maintenance and the ongoing upkeep of the property during the time of occupation by Bennington County Coalition for the Homeless. The project includes the renovation of 7 units in the primary building, which you're seeing right now on the screen. It's a beautiful historic building. It's actually on the state historic register, and we've now nominated it for the federal register. So we should know more by the end of this month as to whether or not it will be granted that. So I think that's pretty exciting for this building. In addition to the 7 existing units, we are planning to add 2 additional units to an outbuilding that you can't see from this picture, located behind it. That will include 2 apartments, one of which will be 2-bedroom in the upstairs level, and then programming space for the coalition on the main floor, including 2 offices and a conference room, which they don't currently have. They don't really have a formal office setting right now, and it's relatively challenging for them to get the day-to-day tasks done, although they do a wonderful job of it. So we are constructing these to meet LIHTC guidelines. So basically they will meet HUD HQS guidelines. And as I said, we'll have their own self-contained kitchen, bedroom, or 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom as well. The intended beneficiaries for this will be families that are currently homeless, many of whom have young children. This is meant to be family housing, not single occupancy. Another goal of the project, in addition to providing a more safe and dignified environment for the residents, is to assist Bennington County Coalition for the Homeless in sustaining operations for the long term. The building that they're currently occupying has not had energy upgrades in quite some time. It has some repair issues. So our big goal here is to make sure that we can bring their operating costs down by performing the energy upgrades necessary to this building to sustain them for the long term, as well as, you know, helping to perform maintenance and things that they're trying to do in-house now with no budget. We've worked together on this for the past, I'd say 3 to 4 years. I started with Chris working on this project back in the day, and it's been a lot to piece together because we've brought something to our funders that they haven't really done with us before. This is not a typical project for us, but it's something that we felt was really important. And now more than ever, we absolutely think this is really important. And we've been partnering with them, and we feel that it's been a great partnership. We're looking forward to continuing to work with them. So 300 Pleasant, as you can see, it's located within walking distance of downtown, close proximity to employment, to schools. It's right near Green Mountain Transportation. It's behind the DMV building, in fact. And it will conform with all regional and local plans. So we will be the sponsor and developer, but ultimately through a limited partnership, we'll own and maintain the property as well. It will be designed to meet the needs of BCCH, and they will then enter into that long-term lease agreement with us. The residents will be income verified in partnership between Shires Housing and BCCH. We currently own the site already, thanks to a land bank grant through VHCB, who has committed funds to this. We also have funds committed through Vermont Housing Finance Agency for state tax credits as well, for 4% credits, and tax-exempt bond financing.
Stephanie, excuse me just a second. You'll tell me when to advance the slides, right? And also,
actually, you can go ahead and we'll look at the map, I guess.
okay. Yeah, Jim Carroll has his hand up. Jim,
Okay.
I'd like to let Stephanie get through the presentation first, and then entertain board questions. But if you have something more pressing, let us know.
No, that was my intention. I just wanted to get my hand up first.
Okay, thank you very much. Your hand is up, and we'll let her get through the presentation. So here's the second slide, Stephanie, and let me know when to keep moving.
Okay, actually, you could go one more if you want to. That just kind of shows where it's located. It's very centrally located. It's close to, you know, a lot of things that these families will need, especially if they don't have transportation. It's right on Pleasant, on the lower part of Pleasant Street. So it's within walking distance to a lot of the things that they'll need to access, you know, services, employment, and the schools. The scope of the rehabilitation for this is it has been developed by the architect already. So we're moving along pretty far down the path at this point. We have a construction manager on board, Naylor and Green, and we're working to value engineer this down to make a budget that works. And we think we've done that. We are there. And the scope is based on a thorough examination of the property, input from VHCB and VHFA, who are funding partners, regarding the energy goals, and the repairs to be addressed within the scope are replacement of all kitchen cabinets and appliances, minor renovations to unit interiors, replacement of electric heat. It's all electric heat right now, which is really costly. And the hot water system as well, with high efficiency, we think propane fired at this point systems, replacement of the plumbing fixtures, installation of fire suppression sprinkler system, insulation and air sealing in the attic, and insulation and air infiltration in the walls, replacement and restoration of interior finishes, and exterior repairs and painting. So our request, the ask is that we're asking the select board to consider a resolution to allow Shires Housing to apply for these VCDP. It would be community facilities funds in this case, through the Agency of Commerce and Community Development as a subgrantee.
Okay, there are a few more slides here, Stephanie. I don't know if you want me to kind of
just
get through them a
They
little
don't
bit.
really coincide with my narrative. I don't like to read slides to folks, but they're just
Okay.
so you can see what the elevations look like. It's a beautiful building,
It is
obviously.
a beautiful building. Yeah, it has a lot of character.
Now there's some interior shots. We would hope to maintain as much of the character as we could, and especially with historic preservation involved now, they're really going to be looking at what's original, what needs to be kept original. So, you know, the outbuilding is not, that was a later structure, but the main house we want to see preserved.
Okay. Great. So, board, I'm not sure if you've all seen it, but I'm going to put something different up on the screen at this point, which is a copy of the resolution that has been requested that we sign, that we consider. And that is a resolution to designate a public agency, whereas the town of Bennington has the authority under Section 102C of the Title I of Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, to designate one or more public agencies to undertake activities assisted under that title. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, that the legislative body of this municipality authorize the chief executive officer to designate the Shires Housing, that said public agency undertaking the following activities, applying for funding for 300 Pleasant Street, Bennington Family Housing Project. And 3, that the chief executive officer is hereby authorized on behalf of the municipality to enter into a contract with said public agency for the performance of said activities. So there are 2 hands up. I'm going to put this down for now. I can put it back up, but there are 2 hands up. I'd like to go to Jim first and then Jeannie.
Good evening, Stephanie. Thank you for coming before us. And the perennial question that I always have is reassurance that the contractor, who is it, Green?
It's Naylor and Breed.
Neeler and Green, that they're going to use as many local contractors as possible.
Absolutely. We always make that a priority on our projects. And I do remember you raising this issue, and they know this is important to us. So I think you'd know on pretty much every project we've done our darndest to use strictly local. It doesn't always work out that way though. It's lowest bid takes it, but we make sure that we very strongly solicit bids for local contractors for every project that we do.
Well, I'm very grateful to hear that. In addition to that, with respect to any replacement appliances, will we be using local contractors rather than, some of the larger big box stores?
We have banned Coca Plum, if anybody has affiliation, I'm sorry, from our list, which is who is Naylor and Breen's go-to. Typically, we find that they're expensive, they're not local, and their warranties are not good. So for our portfolio, we utilize Home Depot locally in Bennington, but we also utilize a small appliance. I can't think of the name of it right now. Joel could tell you, my maintenance guy.
Hollister's?
Right off the top of his head. Yes, Hollister's as well.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Finally, my last question is, can you tell those folks that may be potential contractors how they may apply to become contractors?
They should get in touch with Tanner Romano at Naylor and Breen if they are seeking a subcontract.
Okay. Do you have a number or email address?
Sure. I can send an email address after the meeting.
Okay. All right. Be helpful now, but I won't hold you to it.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can look it up.
That'd be great. Because those folks that are listening that need work, want work, we could get it out to them in an extremely timely fashion. But anyway, Stephanie, thank you for this, and you have my wholehearted endorsement.
Thank you, Jim.
Stephanie looks like she's looking stuff up. I'm going to go to Jeannie and let Jeannie go ahead and start your question, please.
Oh, so I actually didn't have a question. I'm just really excited, and I love that building. So I'm so happy to see this project going forward. So I wanted to make a motion, if that's okay. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve Shires Housing to apply with the town for the Vcdp funding for the project at 300 Pleasant Street.
Second.
Okay, great. And Nancy Ledley, so we're going to take that as a resolution to designate a public agency and for the purposes that Jeannie described. So we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. Jim, is your hand up a second time, or is that the same hand that was up before?
No, but I could go on, but I'll put my hand down.
All right, I'll put it down for you.
Okay.
Okay, other comments from the board? Jean Connor.
I just wanted to let the public know that I'm currently serving on the Board of Shires Housing, so I will be abstaining from this vote.
I think technically that means we're going to do a roll call just to stay within the letter of the law. So just be prepared for that, please, board. Other comments? Stephanie, I'm with Jeannie. Love that building. Love the architecture in that particular area of town, and really like seeing that whole area being invested in. It's nice to have our downtown area invested in. Pleasant Street, you know, for too many years was kind of a backwater, and now it's really getting a lot of attention, and it's great. Thank you for being part of that. Thank you for bringing all this public money to our town too, which is something we very much like. No risk for us. We're happy to be a pass-through organization to get these improvements done.
And thank you to Shannon as well.
Indeed, Shannon spends a lot of the time behind the scenes putting things together with partners, and Shannon, we owe you a great debt for this and many other things that you do. You're one of our unsung heroes in the town office, one of many. So,
Stephanie's a great partner.
yeah, good.
Thank you, Shannon. You're great to work with. Thank you so much.
All right, well, I'm going to call this question, I think, unless there are any more comments from the board. There are none from the public. So I'm going to say, please unmute yourselves. Actually, let's just go right to the roll call. We know we have to do this anyway. Bruce, how would you vote on this question?
Happily, yes.
Jean, how would you vote on this question? Jean's abstaining. Jeannie, how would you vote on this question?
Yes.
Jim, how would you vote on this?
Yeah.
And Sarah, how would you vote on this?
Yes.
And I also vote yes, and join the others in my enthusiasm for the project. So Stephanie, thank you very much. Resolution.
Thank you all so much.
Public agency is on, and so yeah, go forth and conquer. We look forward.
Now
to
the fun begins. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us
support,
tonight.
as always.
We'll get that resolution off to you. Stuart will get that resolution to you.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Yep, have a good evening. So I am going to move us on to the next agenda item at this point, which is community policing update. I know there's been a tremendous amount of work going on behind the scenes. I know because there's lots of activity that Jeannie keeps me abreast of. But Jeannie, would you like to tell us where we are? Would you like to start this off? And I'm not sure how your group would like to report on this, but where are you and what do people need to know?
Great. So we have 4 items to share tonight. 3 are informational and 1 will require action, the final one. So first of all, we just wanted to thank the 2 research teams for the incredible amount of work that they've done on presenting information on both community policing and the civilian review boards. The information was put up last Monday, and it is on the town website under community policing. And just to give you a flavor of it, the community policing materials include 17 pages of summaries of 25 articles and 4 interviews. And the civilian oversight materials include 30 pages of summaries of 47 articles and 10 interviews. So there's a tremendous amount of information there. We're all still sort of wading through it. The articles are great. The interviews are actually really enlightening as well as our comments that are made in the interviews. So I do hope that everyone will go to the town website and look at all those materials. And, thanks to Beth and Shannon for making that possible on the website.
Yeah, Jeannie, and a wonderful job with the summaries because everyone's busy. Things can be overwhelming. A whole list of links can be way too much for people, but those summaries are manageable in a matter of minutes, and they're excellent. So for people that are busy, at very least, go read the summaries.
Yes, thank you. All right, so second, Bruce and Jean and I have been working very hard with Dan Monks and Shannon Barsati and Chief Doucette and Lieutenant Grande to come up with the process for the policy reviews. So we're ready to roll out the Bennington Police Department policy reviews. This is an outgrowth of the IACP report, and what the police department did was look at what they thought would be the 6 most important priority policies for our town to tackle through this review process. So the 6 policies that we will be looking at are use of force, fair and impartial policing, investigation of hate crimes and reporting, responding to persons expressing a mental health crisis, motor vehicle stops, and domestic violence. So for each of those policies, we are posting the IACP model policy, as well as any policies and protocols that we have, excuse me, from the Bennington Police Department, the Brattleboro Police Department, and the Vermont State Police. In addition, we are posting policy papers that we've gotten from the IACP or other relevant documentation that comes to us either through the police or through any of the people involved in this effort. We intend to address the policies in the order that they are presented, and the only reason that might change is if something's happening in the legislature or elsewhere that that means that we should reverse orders and something. But our intention is to start with use of force, and by the end of December have completed domestic violence. So this is the fall's work, which means we're moving at a pretty fast clip. The Policy Advisory Committee will be a 7-member team, or will be 7-member teams. There'll be 3 permanent members, and those represent the 3 legs of our joint committee. So from town management, Dan Monks will be represented, from the police department, Dan Ferrara, and from the select board, Bruce Lee Clark. Okay, so we will be seeking 4 community members for each of the 6 committees. So our intention is to involve 24 different community members. That's ambitious. We'll see if we can do it, but that's the intention. These will be open meetings. So what that means is the 7 members of the Policy Advisory Committee will deliberate, and anyone from the public that would like to be present to watch that deliberation is welcome to be there. Because of COVID, people will need to sign up because we will need to make sure that we've got enough room for people in addition to the 7. So the scope of work and the application will be available tomorrow on the town website, on the Facebook page, and we will post and send out in every way that we can, which we've been doing with everything related to community policing. The applicants will be asked to identify their top 2 policies that they'd like to work on, so that we can get a sense of people's interest. The deadline for the application is going to be September 4th, so you have a little bit of time to do it. And the interview team will be Jean Connor, Lon McClintock, who's a local attorney, and me. The first policy, we hope to be able to take up the first policy on Wednesday, September 23rd. That Bruce, does that sound right? Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, good. So the committee members, everyone on the 7-person Policy Advisory Committee will have materials at least 7 days ahead of time, so that they can both look at the materials that are available to everyone and also have time to do their own research. And because 24 applicants is a pretty ambitious number, we may need to go out to the public more than once to request for applications. So if we need to do that, we'll do that. Okay. All right.
Jeannie, I hear from people fairly regularly that they're not comfortable coming to an in-person meeting, because I poll people on that fairly often regarding this meeting. So are there any provisions for people who want to be either participate or at least view what's happening short of minutes after the meeting? What's your plan for that?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we should be able to figure that out. I think the discussion has not been settled on whether the meetings are going to be Zoom or in person. I think, the preference is to do them in person in a large, like third floor firehouse if we can. And with 7 people, that's quite doable. With 20 people, it's not. So we'll continue to think about that and figure out what we can do. But yeah, I think having a Zoom option, particularly for observers, would be helpful. But we'll see what we need to do.
It does seem unrealistic to have Cat TV do any filming on when you have that many meetings going on, but if they do end up on Zoom, there is a record feature, so the meetings could be recorded. With some amount of work, they could be made available after the fact if that was an important feature. I'm not sure it's as easy in person.
That's possible too. Yes, I was thinking about observers being there during the meeting, but it is true that we could also record. Yeah, we'll think about how to do that. Okay. Yeah, this is the first time we've done this, so we're figuring it out. Okay, so those are all the details that we have on the policy advisory committees and that process. Certainly people are welcome to ask questions. We tried to anticipate questions, but there may be still some out there. The third update wanted to give was on the police department's September training. They have a September 14th and 15th training with Rick Arrington. And he is a trainer who was formerly with the Roanoke, Virginia Police Department, and he oversaw community services unit there. The good news is that, so the training is an in-person training. It is designed to be participatory. It's limited to 25 people, including the presenter. The good news is that 22 police officers signed up for the training, and that did not include the chief and the lieutenant. So those 2 open spots are going to the chief and lieutenant, so they can also be there. So there will not be 2 open seats for the public. What we have been able to do, and I think maybe that's going up tomorrow as well, is we will post the course objectives and the bibliography for the training so that we can all know what's going on. It won't be videotaped because, again, it's a live participatory training and you want to let people be able to ask the questions that they think are important. So that's that one. And then the last thing we wanted to do tonight was hopefully adopt both the town vision and also the Bennington Police Department mission. And I think we would love to take those one at a time. So let me read you the vision for the town of Bennington as we adopted it at the August 5th community gathering with Curtis Reed. It reads, the vision statement for the town of Bennington. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, and resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life. So we would love to have a motion to accept that vision.
I would be happy to move that adoption in as much as the community that was gathered there on that night erupted really in spontaneous applause. I've never seen that at a public meeting necessarily for that kind of a document. So I'm happy to move its adoption.
Thank you, Bruce. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, I'm happy to second it.
All right, it's neck and neck between Jim and Jean. Nancy, you can pick one. So we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. Is there any board discussion besides what has already happened in terms of mentioning that it was a community-driven process and we are more or less adopting what the community came up with here? Not seeing any, I would ask everybody to please unmute themselves. And all in favor of adopting this vision as our way forward, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. thank you very much for bringing us that significant piece. What else, Janie?
Well, the second piece is the mission statement for the Binnington Police Department. So on the 12th, so a week after the August 5th meeting, we were able to have a joint, the joint group of town management, police department, and the select board working group meet together. And we went over the mission statement for the Bennington Police Department that was carved out on August 5th. And the police department was very happy with the framing of this mission statement coming from the community. They liked the wording. We did a little cleanup on commas, and the only change, I'll read the new one in a minute. The only change we made was a sentence that began with "we will achieve." We changed to the department, the police department asked for it to be "the department and the community will achieve." So just clarifying what we meant. So let me read you the mission statement for the Bennington Police Department. It reads, "The Bennington Police Department is accountable to the community for providing everyone, regardless of identity, with respectful and equitable law enforcement, protection, and service. The department and the community will achieve this through collaborative and positive relationships, which contribute to the betterment of our quality of life." So again, I would look for a motion to accept this as the mission of the Binnington Police Department.
I move to accept the mission statement as read by Jeannie.
Second.
So we have a first and a second on this. Any board discussion? I think, Stuart, it might be helpful. I guess I'm looking for board discussion, but I also would like to hear from you about the involvement of the police department and whether or not this is something you feel is really going to work for them.
I think Jeannie said it best. I think they've had the opportunity to look at both, and I believe that they are fully supporting it and welcome the opportunity to work not only with the community but with the committee as we move forward.
Great, thank you for that. Other comments from the board, committee, or other board members? Go ahead, Jean.
Yeah, I have to say that part of that meeting I really enjoyed. I think it was just dynamic. We were all involved. I had no idea Chief Doucette is such a good wordsmither. It was really, really a positive experience. And I think we all walked away from the discussion about the statement feeling really, really good.
I'm really happy to hear that. I know the community meeting, we were flies in the wall there. We were consciously trying not to participate and to more or less let that be community driven, but it was very frustrating towards the end when the CO2 scrubber went off and we couldn't hear anything and the whole thing had sort of a frustrating, loud end. But it's nice to know that the community had gotten most of the way there with really only very minor edits. And I'm glad to know that it's something that works for the police department because we certainly will need them to embrace this as we go forward. So it's great. Anything from anybody else? All right. Well, this is a great movement. So I would like to call this vote. I would ask you all to please unmute yourselves, and all in favor of adopting the mission as stated by Jeannie, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any abstentions? Great. Well, so that's good work. That's great work, committee. Thank you very much for bringing that. That missions and visions they're just words at some level, and yet words are so important, and we need to have good words to inspire us on. So thank you very much for taking the time for that. Anything else from the community policing update?
No.
Excellent. So we will rest on our oars, as they say, and wait to watch the rollout of the policy committees, and that should be very interesting, and I hope this community will broadly participate in that to the extent possible. I see two hands up. I'm going to start with Jim, and then I'm going to go to Gene Connor.
I would just like to note that, Donald, you are ahead of schedule by about 10 minutes.
Yeah, thanks for cursing it. Thanks for cursing it, Jim. Well, there are about 20 calls coming in on that. 20 calls coming in on the lines now.
Well, I think that, it's a significant milestone for you, Donald, and it's worth noting.
I'm gonna mute you in a minute, Jim. All right, Gene Connor, what have you got?
Yeah, I know the information on the community members that we need for the policy committees is going to be on the town website. Is it going to be anywhere else?
Yes. So it's on the Facebook page. It'll go, Shannon has prepared a press release. So it should go to the banner. We'll post it on Front Porch Forum. And then, I think we'll send it out through our email networks as we have in the past. So we'll invite the entire board to send it to, as many groups and individuals as they can think of.
And just for clarification, do people need, is the same criteria going to be in place for getting these volunteers, or yeah, these are volunteers? They need to live or work in Bennington to participate?
I think that's our preference. Yeah.
We'll take that as a yes for now. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I am going to move us on to a relatively perfunctory task here, Stuart. Item number 5 is the PFOA loan documents. I love these things where big chunks of money come in and we get paid back 100% for them. So tell us what's up here.
Yes, this is this comes through the bond bank, but it's the Vermont Water Resources funding to help with Contract 9, specifically from the Vermont State Revolving Fund. These monies will pay for the work on mostly Chapel Road, some of the Lower Willow Road. Contract is already underway by Casella. And these monies, as you said, will be paid back to us 100%. So there's no cost to the municipality. And this was the work of, I think the A&R worked very hard to get this funding approved. And I think the legislature also had to weigh in on it. So this is a relatively unique process that they set up in order to finish this PFOA remediation project. So what the board must do is vote to approve the loan agreement, authorize the chair to sign the loan agreement, and the general obligation note. It's a little bit shorter than what we'd normally see because there is no long-term payback, no arbitrage issues involved in this particular project.
So, any questions from the board? It was a long, difficult document, but again, I think the summary is money comes in, we get paid back for it. Money goes out, we get paid back for it. So, Bruce, what have you got?
I'm gonna be happily making the motion if that's okay, so that we can actually discuss something that's a motion, not just a proposal.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so I would move that the board approve the loan agreement, authorize the chair to sign the loan agreement and the general obligation note.
Perfect. Well done. Do I have a second for that?
I will enthusiastically second that.
Thank you, Sarah. Great to have you do that. So we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the part of the board?
Do we need to waive the reading of the document?
Not in this particular case, Jim.
Okay, thanks.
Stuart, is there anything else we need to know about this? Any trepidation? I mean, I read it through. It's pretty heavy duty, but it does, the 2 million comes in, 2 million goes out. It seems good.
Yeah, it's basically this agency is, or the state is loaning us $2 million, essentially with no payback requirement. So because the town, it's the town water system, and the town is the general contractor on all of these PFOA related contracts. In most cases, St. Gobain is the one funding them. And in this case, it's the state of Vermont through the town of Bennington that will fund this last contract.
There are a lot of moaning and groaning about how Bennington never gets any attention, but the Agency of Natural Resources has really been there for us on this one.
In this case, they certainly have been.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Not seeing any further board discussion, I would ask you to please unmute yourselves. And all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? No? Okay. Thank you very much for bringing that to us, Stuart. That's great. And I've got documents here that I'll get to you.
Thank you very much.
So we have, we're moving on to the manager's report, Stuart. Number of difficult issues on this, but break them down for us if you would, please.
Yes. Well, the first issue is the Southern Vermont College, the camp at Southern Vermont College. It's my understanding that they are pretty much completed. Our contempt of order document remains in place until September 1, assuming that they will be certainly out of there by the end of this week. It's my understanding, I've seen some photographs that people have provided, that the exterior parts of the grounds are littered quite badly. I don't know whether there was an attempt by the camp owners to clean some of that up over the past week. I haven't been up there myself as yet, but that is pretty much done. According to what Dan tells me today, in his conversation with David Newell, the bankruptcy has been formally filed once again, and so the process is underway to deal with that property in the long term. The second issue is the
Sorry, Stuart, before you leave that issue, I'm going to ask the board for questions that we get more questions on this. This and the masked man are the two things that hit my email the most. So, board, do you have other questions for Stuart on this? I know he may not be able to, there are a lot of things on the advice of our counsel, there are a lot of things we can't discuss, as you know, from our previous meeting and from the letter we got from our attorney. But there are some things we could ask Stuart, and if you have questions, now would be the time. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yes, Stuart, my understanding then from your conversation with Dave Newell is that the report that the trustees had dissolved is premature and that they are still the owners of that property. Is that correct?
I would have to look to Dan for that one, since Dan had the conversation today with Mr. Newell, but I would assume that in some fashion that is correct.
So Stuart, this is Dan. My understanding is that the board has been dissolved and has not been reconstituted. It's really the bank that is the community bank that's running the show on this particular issue, but the bankruptcy has been filed and the bankruptcy trustee, I believe, has been appointed. So you'll start to see action in the bankruptcy proceedings.
Thank
So
you.
what does that mean, Dan, with respect to the sale of the property?
Well, it means that the bankruptcy trustee will determine whether or not to hold a bankruptcy auction. And a lot of that will have to do his belief on whether or not an auction will raise more funds than the current contract that's in place, and or whether or not that current contract is pursued. We don't know what the intentions are of this current purchasers are. So we'll have to wait and see, and the bankruptcy trustee will have to make a determination about how best to gain the most funds for the creditors.
So does that open it up to other bidders?
Potentially, it will depend upon, like I said, that whether or not the bankruptcy trustee decides to hold an auction.
Okay.
It's completely within his discretion. We don't have any authority over that. It's just the bankruptcy trustee who has been appointed and will be making those decisions.
Furthermore,
Okay,
the camps could not come back without the bankruptcy court's further permission, right? At this point, so the bankruptcy court now controls what happens there.
I can't answer that because I don't know what the wording of the existing agreements are and what the authority is of the bankruptcy trustee to void those existing agreements. So that I really couldn't answer that question without.
Sorry,
talking
sorry,
to the
we're putting you on the
bankruptcy
spot here, but a lot of people put us on the spot too. Just one last thing, maybe Dan. You know, how do these things normally work? These things probably they happen pretty quickly, don't they? In terms of bankruptcy turnarounds.
Well, yeah, typically they do, especially in a case where waiting would cause significant economic harm, and in this case, waiting through another winter would not be good for that property. So I would expect the bankruptcy trustee to work pretty quickly to dispose of the assets.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it? Was it Oberhowski that was appointed?
Yeah, Ray Oberhowski, the same trustee that was appointed previously, that had expressed concerns of the occupation of the property.
He is very good. He will do a good job.
And what
He's very
happens?
well respected.
Yeah, he is very well respected. What happens to our contempt of order and our other court filings after the September expiration?
Well, the contempt of court order is in force until September 1. So if they violate it, they'll be fined. But I don't. Now that they're not there, it's unlikely they'll violate that contempt of court order. We were awarded attorney's fees, and we will pursue that. Although it may be difficult to collect those depending upon what happens in the future.
So, board, I know this is frustrating. I know there are a lot of people that want us to deal with it. It requires a certain amount of nuance and reading between the lines, but there are just things about this that we can't touch as a town government. And we have gotten a lot of legal advice on this, and we're following that to the best of our ability. And does not mean that other private entities couldn't make a run at this. Other entities could try to get involved in this, and it's just at this point it's the town that would be in a conflict of interest if we tried to do that. So I'm going to leave it there, I guess, Stuart. And unless there are any other questions from the board on this, let's take you to your next item, please.
Okay, the next item is the Black Lives Matter mural, the road painting. That is scheduled for Sunday, August 30th. At the present time, we will close off South Street from the Four Corners to Elm Street. We will also close off the two parking lot entrances off of South Street to the rear of the town offices. And we will close off Union Street at Valentine, or Silver, I'm sorry, so that the area will be entirely closed off so that people can move about safely. There'll be no traffic through the site. The detours will be in place so that traffic moving in the north-south direction will be able to follow the detours. They're very similar to the ones that we used during the Battle Day Parade, so that should not be very difficult. Police will be on hand, one manning the detours. There was talk about the Copsicle trailer joining the event. The police seem to be pretty happy to do that, which I think is really a good sign. But we'll see whether that works out. And we are working to have security cameras operational during the event and ultimately after the fact as well. Just so in case people, things get out of control or get out of hand, and I'm really hopeful that they will not. We're expecting a relatively large crowd, I'm told, anywhere from 150 to 300 people may be on the site. We're going to have a food station. Well, they'll be distributing prepared foods. They'll have 2 mask stations and wellness stations that will be at either end of the grounds in front of the town offices, and they'll have 3 bands that will perform, beginning at 4 o'clock in the evening or afternoon, moving into around 7 o'clock at night. The road will be closed off most likely closer to 1 o'clock in the afternoon to allow the preparation for the mural to take place. They have lined up a number of people to paint. Everybody will be practicing safe distancing. Masks will be required. I know that the group is hopeful that this will be a very nice community celebration. So we'll see how it goes. We're looking forward to it. We also are monitoring activity on Facebook and other places where people are making threats about trying to disrupt the operation, but we'll be monitoring that as well. And this is something that's happened in a number of communities throughout the state and throughout the nation, and we expect that the community should come down and enjoy themselves on Sunday evening.
Great, well said, Stuart. Thank you for that. What else?
Okay, the masked man. There was an attempt by the state's attorney's office to get an order that would prohibit him from carrying his weapons. That was not successful. The judge ruled that they did not meet the level of concern that people were expressing, and therefore he was within his right to do what he was doing. There is nothing else we can do at this time. As we talked a little bit about before the show began here, we have an opinion from council that indicates there is nothing the town can do on its own to prohibit an individual from possessing or carrying firearms, wherein the state. So we are at a point where he has a right to do what he's been doing. It is unfortunate that it becomes very concerning to people, especially people visiting the community, people who are out on the downtown and attempting to enjoy what the downtown has to offer. But it is as it is.
Well, yeah, it is as it is. And so we have turned this over with our council extensively, notwithstanding all the suggestions we get about creating special zones downtown and whatnot. We are still in a position where our council has advised us that there is nothing under the current legal structure that we can do. It feels to me like this could be a poster case for some change in state legislation. I wouldn't be surprised if our state legislators ended up taking this back to Montpelier as a perfect example of why we may need to think about open carry in another way in certain situations. But we'll see.
Yeah, and I think we have a commitment from Senator Sears and Senator Campion to at least discuss the issue with Legislative Council in this short session that is coming. That I think it just got underway today, and perhaps in much more detail in future legislative sessions as we move through the pandemic.
I saw your hand go up, Sarah. Go ahead.
Yes, so this is out of our hands now. Who at the state level would be able to request a hearing or an appeal? I know this is going to be a question we receive.
The State's Attorney's Office is the only one that has the authority to do so.
Thanks.
Other questions for Stuart on this particular issue? I probably get more emails about this, Stuart, than anything else. Not happy about it, but I think it's frustrating. It's concerning because it does, I think, impact the downtown. And I understand the young man has a right to do what he's doing, but I really wish he would consider his community much more carefully than he has been. Any other comments or questions for Stuart on this subject? Okay, Stuart, what's next?
Well, the last two are standard fare. The PFOA projects are moving forward. We have 4 projects underway, including Contract 9, which we talked about earlier with funding. All but 8 and 9 should finish this year, 2020. 8 and 9 may lap over into 2021 a little bit, but when they are done, we should be able to say that all of the impacted wells with the PFOA problems have been either connected to municipal water, re-drilled and improved, or they have a point of entry system on their water service so that they are no longer at risk of contamination. There are some units that are just too far outside the system for us to serve them safely. And so those folks will be either looking at a new well or a point of entry system for their drinking water. After this, the state will be taking a hard look, and they may have even begun that process of looking at the area that is out in the west, under the West End, where the PFOA contamination has been, and they may look at altering the ability of people to drill wells to get water where the municipal system can be reached. And that is something that they may ask us to work with them on. This is to give you guys a heads up that we may have to adopt an ordinance which requires connection to the municipal system if you are within a reasonable distance to it. We've not had to do that in the past, but in this particular case, we may be asked to by the state of Vermont to work with them to bring that to fruition.
Okay, that's great. Also attached to your manager's report is the pathway report.
Oh, and yes.
Fantastic to see Kosher Drive going in.
Thank you, Donald. I was just going to say that. I took a ride along the pathway along Coker Drive and Northside Drive. It is absolutely gorgeous to look at. I love the bridge across the Furnace Brook. I think the only thing left there, Dan, is probably the crossing in the median.
Right, the pedestrian crossing and the median still have to be completed, but we expect that they'll be done in early September, maybe even by the end of August. It depends on materials and their timing. But we're very happy to have that one soon to be under our belt, and we have other ones to look forward that should be happening fairly quickly thereafter. You may recall the Applegate to Willowbrook path. That's fully funded, and we hope to go out to bid this fall. Unfortunately, that project involves quite a bit of pressure-treated lumber, and currently it's very difficult to obtain. So we have to be very careful on when and how we bid this project, because we don't want to bid it at a time when there's inflated prices. So we intend to bid it this fall, but it all is dependent on pricing of that material. The other project that we look forward to hopefully getting out to bid this winter is the long-awaited rail trail project. I expect that we'll have bid documents completed and all permits in place by the end of September, perhaps October. And then that will be, the final decision on that will be what the final cost estimate is, because although this is a legacy project, so the funding from the state essentially will match the actual cost up to 90%. Obviously, if the cost goes up, our match would go up. We have $110,000 in reserve, but if that project exceeds the 1.1 million that we hope it will be, or less, then we have to be ready to step up to the plate and increase the match. But luckily it's only 10%, and we don't have to seek additional funding from the state, because it's one of those projects back when they used to fund 90% without a cap on cost. So that's a nice thing that's fully funded from the state. The other pathway project that folks are probably thinking about is the Ninja Trail. And we're in the right-of-way acquisition phase. We're down to 4 rights-of-way. We're soon hopefully down to 3. And we'll be working very hard to nail those down in the next 3 to 6 months, hopefully avoiding the eminent domain process. But we're still talking with those folks, and we hope, like I said, we hope to have agreements with them within the next few months or so. And that's about it on the pathways, but finally nice to see some movement, and I hope that the dominoes start to fall here on all these projects.
And do you want to follow up with a little bit of information on the splash pad? Am I jumping the gun?
I'd look for a press release that will be sent out by Grow Bennington tomorrow, or this evening even. So there might be something in the banner as soon as tomorrow, but I don't want to steal their thunder. I'll wait. I can certainly update folks at the next meeting if the word hasn't gotten out.
No, good. Nice to have something to look forward to. Nice to have you do Easter
Well, I
egg.
apologize if I jumped the gun on that one, Dan. And one last piece, Donald. I've been talking with our engineers about when to timely bid the Morgan Spring relocation project. And some of the information I've been receiving just as recently as today is indicating that perhaps we should be looking to bid that project in October of this year, which would then be constructed during 2021, and we could then move before our January 2023 termination date on our current contract.
Great.
A lot will depend on how much the bids are and whether or not our current vendors or customers are willing to work with us on the cost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's keep the heat on that. Thank you for that. Good managers report. Any question for Stuart at this time? All right, so upcoming agenda. I don't have much on my list right now. We will be coming, it's hard to imagine that we're almost into the fall, but October is, we'd like to try to do the managers review and evaluation at that point. So there'll be, board expects some possible executive sessions on that for personnel along the way. And what else have you, Jeannie, your group is going to be working hard on the policy work. Stuart and Dan, have you got anything pressing that will be coming up for us at the first September meeting?
Right now, it looks like the Benmont Bike Ped grant project might be on the agenda for the 14th of September.
That's a request to seek approval, or to get approval to seek additional funding from the state and feds. So that's what that is. Also, another minor item that will be coming up, either the first or second meeting in September, probably the second meeting, is asking the board for approval to apply for a municipal planning grant to help us do a plan for the eventual reuse of the Eveready battery factory complex. We've already received a significant amount of funding from the EPA, thanks to A&R's diligence on that, and we'd like to supplement that with a municipal planning grant so that we can do something similar to the downtown area-wide plan that was the impetus for some of the thinking on the Putnam project. So we hope to repeat that for the Eveready battery factory property.
Okay, after Stephanie Lane got off, she came up with the address that Jim had asked for, which is tromano@naylorgreen.com, TROMANO@NAYLORBREEN.com. So that came in from Stephanie. I think we're just going to have to see what comes up in September. So stand by. We'll have a good agenda for you when the time comes. Other business. Are there any important things that we need to know of? Let's go around the horn. Bruce? Nope. Jeannie? All caught up with you. Sarah? Anything from you? Nope. Skipped over Jim.
Hey, yeah, I've got something to bring to the attention, especially to business owners. This comes from the governor's office, and it's under the Economic Recovery Grant Program. The award maximum has been increased for Vermont business sectors most impacted by COVID-19, and it comes from the governor. And the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, ACCD, and the Department of Taxes announced an increase to the maximum grant award for economic recovery grants for Vermont businesses negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The increase in the maximum grant is available to businesses in the lodging, retail, hospitality, arts, travel, and event-affiliated sectors that have had continued capacity constraints. Previously, businesses could receive up to $50,000 in grant funds, and those are monies that don't have to be repaid. They are grants from the feds. Now, businesses in eligible industries can receive up to an additional $100,000 in grant funding for a total of $150,000 from the program. The increased maximum award is available both to new applicants to the program and to those businesses that have already received a $50,000 grant. All businesses that have received a $50,000 grant award from the Department of Taxes are eligible to request an increase to the new maximum award amount and can do so through My VT Tax. That's My VT AX. ACCD will be contacting eligible businesses that already received a $50,000 grant, notifying them this supplemental grant funding may be available to them starting today. Businesses that have not applied for an economic recovery grant are encouraged to apply if they have experienced losses of at least 50% in the months of March to July 2020, compared to any 1 month period from March to July in 2019. Businesses that may not have been eligible based on earlier months are encouraged to evaluate their losses for the month of July as they may now be eligible. More information can be found at Economic Recovery Grant Program website. There's more than $90 million that's been awarded to more than 3,500 businesses in 22 different sectors in all 14 counties in Vermont. But there are still funds available, so take advantage of it. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Jim. Complicated announcement, but there is a lot of money out there for economic recovery, and it bears repeating that we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and it's difficult. I think we get more and more used to that as time goes on, and we get more and more sort of used to the new normal, which we don't really want, but we have to at some level do. So thanks for bringing that up.
Well, just one final note, Donald. If people need some more guidance on social media, they can go to my Facebook page, and it'll spell it out more. And I provide links. And for that matter, people can call me personally at 733-2061, and I'd be more than happy to help.
Thanks, Jim. On that note, on the COVID note, I think I hear a lot from people that they want to be able to participate in this meeting and they would not feel comfortable participating in person. So I'm continuing to feel that we should meet remotely until we start seeing the numbers changing. We're still having a fair amount of cases of COVID. It's still on. It's not going away. So that's my opinion. I'd be interested to know if the board feels differently. But Jeannie and I will be scheduling the meeting for September. Unless we hear otherwise from you, I think Jeannie and I will be scheduling the meeting for September on a remote basis. So, okay. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your attention, and I appreciate the fact that we got through this agenda in good season. So I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Thank you, Jean. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are out. Catamount TV, thank you very much for sticking with us tonight. You're a great partner. And Bennington, thank you for being with us. Stay safe, and we'll look for you soon. Take care.